Hey everyone! Welcome to Reddify, where we dive into the most fascinating and thought-provoking stories shared on Reddit. In today's video, we're exploring moral dilemmas and tricky situations our protagonists have encountered. Get ready to question what you would do in similar situations, and don't forget to leave your opinion in the comments. Today, we start with a tale from the subreddit, Am I the Asshole?, where our narrator faces a moral dilemma after years of bullying. He wonders if he was wrong to start ignoring a high school friend who never really supported him. Let's dive into the details of this complicated relationship. I was bullied throughout my school life, except for the last 2 years. In my final years of elementary school, everyone isolated and excluded me as if I were some kind of virus. I was naive and thought the problem was with me. When I entered high school, only one girl talked to me. She became my friend, though she remained friends with everyone else. I was so grateful she became my friend. However, she never did anything when others avoided me. During holidays and weekends, she would call to complain about how her other friends invited her to the movies too late. She acted as if I wasn't being bullied, as if everything was fine. She never asked how I was when we met after holidays. She never defended me or listened when I wanted her help. She completely ignored the topic. When she moved out of town, I decided to change schools too. Only after being in a healthy environment did I understand that it was not my fault I was bullied. I realized she approached me just to be the overly nice girl. Ironically, I was her only real friend. But I started ignoring her after I understood this. So, am I the asshole for doing that? This story makes us reflect on the nature of friendships and the impact of bullying. While the friend seemed well-intentioned, her failure to offer real support raises questions about the sincerity of her actions. Our narrator experienced significant personal growth by recognizing that he was not responsible for the bullying and deserved better relationships. In the next segment of our video, we have another intriguing tale from the subreddit Am I the Asshole? This time, a stepmother finds herself in a complex family impasse, questioning whether she should continue to take on responsibilities that, in her view, should be shared between the biological parents. For the past 4 years, I've been considered an abusive stepmother by the biological mother. My husband has had full custody of the children for 11 years. The biological mother, despite failing, tried to get custody of some of them and couldn't. But to this day, she convinced the youngest son that I am an abusive person. The courts dismissed any wrongdoing. Now we have a distant relationship, but it's working well. But after all this, I decided to delete all the logins I created over the last 7 years related to his school. My husband knew I had deleted years ago. Everything was great until he needed a new login and password for a career center and also the original final school login. My husband was desperate, trying to remember old passwords. In front of my stepson, I asked him to simply contact his mother and that, between the two, they could figure it out. My stepson went upstairs until I found out. Am I the asshole for trying to involve his mother? This account highlights the often tense dynamics of a blended family, where responsibilities and expectations may not be clearly defined or fair. The stepmother feels overwhelmed and neglected, pointing to the need for more balanced support and recognition within the family. It's a reminder that communication and acknowledgement are key in any family relationship. We now move on to a story from the subreddit Am I the Asshole?, where a young man feels undervalued and overwhelmed by family responsibilities. He seeks greater recognition for his efforts and wonders if his expectations are reasonable. About a year ago, I was feeling very undervalued at home, despite managing school, work, and home life. On the way back from school, I decided to express to my mother that I felt underappreciated for what I contributed. We rarely talk about these issues, so it was hard to start this conversation. I ended up having an emotional breakdown in the car, crying while my mother asked what was wrong. I explained that I hadn't done anything wrong, but that I just felt undervalued at home. I always had to translate everything for everyone and accompany my mother shopping in case someone tried to speak to her in Danish. I always help my siblings with school to the point that they come to me instead of informing our parents about school communications. And throughout all this, I rarely receive a simple thank you. My mother then exploded, saying that I was ungrateful and that it was good that I was learning how hard life is. She said that if I found it difficult to help my family, I would have problems in the future. I stayed silent and cried for the rest of the ride home. I love helping my family, but sometimes it all becomes too much. This account deeply touches us, showing how family expectations can overwhelm young people, especially when they play a crucial role in daily support. The story highlights the importance of recognition and emotional support, essential for the well-being of all family members. Next, we have a story from the subreddit Am I the Asshole, revolving around a secretly kept pregnancy. Our narrator faced a challenging pregnancy and chose not to share the news immediately with the family, a decision that later provoked mixed feelings among her relatives. I recently had a baby, our first. It was a challenging pregnancy from the start, so we kept it secret. We visited the family around the 4th month, but we weren't ready to announce. At the same time, my cousin also had a baby, which she announced to the family in the 1st month of pregnancy. To each their own. We announced our pregnancy in the 5th month and invited everyone to the baby shower in the 7th month. None of our relatives attended, so it ended up being an event just for friends. There was a death in the family during that period, so I assumed everyone was grieving. I didn't make it an issue. Fast forward to last week, my newborn turned 3 months old. No one visited us in the hospital or after the birth at home. I made excuses for them, knowing that everyone visited my cousin's baby. I wanted my grandmother to hold the baby, so I made an appointment with my aunt, who cares for her. When I arrived, I felt a tense atmosphere and discovered they had found my baby pictures and showed them to me. I asked to keep the photos and was immediately told I couldn't. This frustrated me, so I asked that they not take pictures of my newborn. This triggered a barrage of hostility, claiming we hadn't told about the pregnancy during our last visit. I defended my decision. They asked me to leave, and my aunt even picked up a stool as if to throw it at me. But all I wanted was a photo of my grandmother with my baby. I left utterly confused, heartbroken, and humiliated. The drive home was filled with inconsolable crying. This account raises delicate issues about privacy, family expectations, and how we handle communication in sensitive times. The decision to not announce the pregnancy immediately was personal and grounded, but the repercussions show how deeply rooted family expectations are and how they can affect our closest relationships. To conclude our series of moral dilemmas today, we have an account from the subreddit Am I the Asshole about a complicated leasing situation. The narrator faces issues with a sublease and sudden decisions that could lead to legal and personal conflicts. Let's understand the details of this dispute. I rent a house in California with permission to sublet all the upper rooms and the downstairs studio. 2 months ago, a roommate moved out, and Diane, a friend of the owner, came to see the room. She liked the room and me and wanted to give a deposit. She called Anne, the owner, as a courtesy, 2 days later, and gave me a false 60-day notice to vacate by August 1st because her husband suddenly decided to retire and they were moving here. In CA, after renting for more than a year, this is one of the few reasons for an eviction. 2 weeks ago, and told my 2 subtenants to pay rent directly to her despite not having a rental contract with them. I told them that Anne was trying to illegally evict me and that I wasn't moving and they should continue paying rent to me. I legally recorded a conversation in which Anne told me she hadn't decided whether to rent any room and, if so, to whom, after Diane told Julie she would be moving in 4 days. Clearly, Anne was lying. Legally, if Julie pays indirectly, I lose rights to the studio and Julie takes over. I texted Julie the recorded conversation. She was absent, but she ignored the messages. I received read receipts, and I had to gradually escalate, eventually pointing out that I could evict her for non-payment of rent. I threatened Anne with multiple lawsuits if the subtenants paid rent directly to her, copying Julie. A day before the rent was due, Julie texted me saying she was just now catching up on her messages and would pay the rent the next day. She came back today with her ex, and I wanted to talk to her about what happened, but she refused to speak with me. I gave her a 5-month notice to vacate, trying to say I didn't want to evict her. It was like a 5-month lease. But now I wasn't comfortable with our relationship when Julie had evidence Diane and Anne were lying. She still refused to pay rent, and the point was to see if this improved in the coming months, and if it did, I would withdraw the notice. The reason I needed to talk to her today is that tomorrow she will complete 1 year here, and then I couldn't evict her because we don't get along. This complex story sheds light on the tensions and legal complexities of subletting. It highlights the importance of contractual clarity and honesty in rental relationships, as well as the emotional and legal impact that property disputes can have on those involved. That wraps up our dive into the human complexities and moral dilemmas presented today. We hope these stories have provoked thought and perhaps even made you question what you would do in similar situations. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the Redify channel so you don't miss our future explorations. And of course, we want to hear from you. Leave a comment below about which story resonated with you the most and why. Your interaction is crucial for us to continue bringing content you love. See you next time.